The Galactic Council chamber was a mosaic of chaos and order, a place where the universe's most advanced species gathered to settle disputes, trade knowledge, and outmaneuver one another in the political game. Today, however, the room simmered with a palpable tension. All eyes, or equivalents thereof, were fixed on the colossal doors at the far end of the hall. The Hryvalk were arriving. The Hryvalk didn't enter rooms, they claimed them. The heavy double doors swung open with an ominous creak, revealing the towering predators. Their armored forms gleamed like obsidian under the chamber's crystalline lights. Each of their 4 clawed feet struck the floor with precision, a sound that echoed like the ticking of a bomb. Their leader, Vorkan, stepped forward, his bioluminescent eyes scanning the assembly with cold disdain. "We claim our seat at this council," Vorkan announced, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber. "As the apex predators of this galaxy, it is our right." The declaration sent ripples of unease through the room. Delegates whispered nervously among themselves, and a few smaller species quietly shuffled toward the exits. The Hryvalk had a reputation that transcended systems, a legacy of hunting, conquering, and eliminating threats with ruthless efficiency. But before anyone could muster a response, the doors opened again with a hiss. The sound was far less dramatic this time, almost casual. 3 humans strolled into the chamber, entirely out of sync with the charged atmosphere. They wore simple business attire, shirts, ties, and slacks. One of them carried a paper bag emitting a tantalizingly smoky aroma, while another sipped nonchalantly from a steaming mug. "Sorry, folks," said the one in front, a wiry man with a badge that read Nathan. His tone was so light it bordered on cheerful. Traffic in the Orion Arm was murder. Solar storms, you know how it is. The room froze. The humans' arrival was unexpected, their tone a stark contrast to the looming threat of the Hryvalk. Delegates exchanged bewildered glances. Did these soft-skinned bipeds not understand where they were? Vorkan's amber eyes narrowed, his imposing form straightening as he focused on the intruders. "Humans," he growled. "You dare interrupt this council's deliberations?" Nathan, unfazed, tilted his head in mock confusion. "Interrupt? Oh, no. We're right on time. Actually, we even brought something to share." He gestured to the paper bag. "Smoked brisket, slow-cooked for 16 hours. Thought it might help break the ice." The chamber was silent except for the faint rustling of the bag as Nathan pulled out a plate of the steaming meat. The scent wafted through the air, causing several delegates to sniff the air involuntarily. Vorkan stepped closer, his towering frame casting a shadow over Nathan. "You think food will distract us from your insolence?" Nathan met the Hryvalk leader's glare with a smile that was somehow both friendly and challenging. "Not distract. Connect. See, we humans have a saying, the fastest way to someone's heart is through their stomach. We're pretty good at turning something terrifying into something delicious." The tension in the room shifted. The Hryvalk were apex predators, masters of intimidation and dominance. Yet here were the humans, soft-skinned and comparatively fragile, meeting their menace with an offer of hospitality. Vorkan's claws flexed, their tips scratching faint lines into the chamber's floor. "Do you not fear us, human?" Nathan shrugged. "Fear? Nah. Respect, sure. But we've dealt with apex predators before." He gestured casually toward the plate of brisket. "In fact, a lot of them are on that plate. Ever heard of a bull? Big, strong, could trample you in a heartbeat. Turns out, they taste fantastic if you cook them slow enough." The chamber erupted in whispers. The audacity of the humans was unprecedented. Even the Hryvalk, whose reputation for fearlessness was unmatched, seemed momentarily thrown off balance. Vorkan leaned in closer, his glowing eyes locking with Nathan's. "We are not prey, human." Nathan's smile widened. Good. Then you'll love our cooking. Apex predators deserve apex meals. For the first time in recent memory, the Hryvalk hesitated. Their strategy had always been clear: dominate through fear. But these humans, with their strange blend of confidence and curiosity, weren't following the script. Very well, Vorkan said finally, his deep voice laced with suspicion. We accept your offering. But understand this, we are not easily impressed. Nathan nodded, his smile never wavering. Oh, we're counting on it. As the humans passed out plates to the other delegates, the chamber buzzed with a strange new energy. The galaxy's most fearsome predators had just agreed to a meal with humanity, and everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Apex meeting. The council chamber buzzed with tension as the scent of the humans' barbecue wafted through the air. Delegates, many of whom had never encountered human cuisine, fidgeted in their seats. The Hryvalk delegation sat rigid, their glowing eyes darting between the humans and the steaming plate of brisket that Nathan had placed in front of them. Vorkan's claws tapped rhythmically on the table, a sound like distant thunder. Do you believe this display will make us lower our guard? He growled. Nathan, unflinching, took a seat across from the towering predator. Lower your guard? No. But maybe it'll help us talk like equals. After all, isn't that what diplomacy is about? Finding common ground? The Hryvalk leader leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. We do not negotiate from weakness, human. We take what we want. We are apex predators. Nathan took a bite of brisket, chewing thoughtfully. He set his fork down and met Vorkan's gaze, his tone calm but pointed. You're not the first apex predators we've dealt with. The room stilled. The delegates, many of whom had spent their lives fearing the Hryvalk, turned their attention to the humans. Even Vorkan seemed momentarily intrigued. Oh, he rumbled, his claws retracting slightly. Explain. Nathan leaned back, his casual demeanor betraying none of the danger he faced. Well, back on Earth, apex predators were a dime a dozen. Big cats, bears, sharks, wolves, you name it, we had it. They were faster, stronger, deadlier. And yet, he gestured to himself and his companions. Here we are. Still standing. The Hryvalk delegation exchanged glances, their bioluminescent displays flickering subtly. How? Vorkan demanded, his voice a low rumble. Nathan smiled. Humans have this little thing called persistence. You see, we didn't need claws or fangs to survive. We just had to outlast everything else. Take persistence hunting, for example. You pick a target, a mammoth, maybe, and you chase it. Not for hours, but for days. You don't stop. You don't give up. Eventually, the prey collapses from exhaustion, and then, he made a slicing motion across his neck. The chamber fell silent. Even the Hryvalk, masters of the hunt, seemed taken aback. You chased prey to death, one of Vorkan's subordinates hissed, his tone half disbelief, half admiration. Nathan nodded. Sure did. And when we weren't hunting, we were figuring out ways to make the hunt easier. Spears, traps, fire, oh, fire was a game changer. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish with a little ingenuity and a lot of patience. Vorkan's eyes narrowed. You claim to be hunters. Yet you lack the natural tools of the hunt. No claws. No fangs. How did you survive? Nathan chuckled, glancing at his colleague, a stocky woman named Erin, who had been quietly sipping her coffee. She set her cup down and leaned forward. Survival isn't just about tools, Erin said, her voice steady. It's about adaptability. Sure, we didn't have claws, so we made them. We didn't have fangs, so we created weapons that worked better. And when that wasn't enough, we got creative. Ever hear of a thing called domestication? Vorkan tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing. Explain. Well, Aaron continued, take wolves, for example. Apex predators in their own right. Pack hunters. Deadly. We didn't fight them, we befriended them. Fed them, bred them, turned them into allies. Fast forward a few thousand years, and now we have dogs. Loyal companions. Helpers. Hunters. We turned a predator into a partner. A murmur rippled through the delegates. Vorkan's claws stopped their rhythmic tapping. You tamed predators? He asked, his voice laced with incredulity. Aaron grinned. Not just tamed. Improved. And it didn't stop with wolves. We've done it with horses, cattle, even wildcats to some extent. Humanity's survival has always been about turning the impossible into the possible. We don't just adapt to our environment, we make the environment adapt to us. The Hryvalk delegation seemed visibly unsettled now. Their entire worldview was based on dominance through strength. The idea of a species thriving through collaboration and ingenuity was alien to them. Vorkan leaned back in his seat, his gaze fixed on the humans. You speak as if you are masters of the hunt. Yet you are soft. Fragile. How do you account for this contradiction? Nathan gestured toward the plate of brisket. See that? That's what happens when you take something tough, something that would be almost inedible, and transform it. Low and slow, hours of cooking. Patience. Technique. What you end up with is something that's not just edible but incredible. That's humanity in a nutshell. We take what's tough, what's impossible, and we make it work. We make it better. For the first time, Vorkan hesitated. The humans' confidence, their strange mix of humor and pragmatism, was disarming in a way he hadn't anticipated. Nathan leaned forward, his smile faint but unwavering. So, here's the deal, Vorkan. You can keep trying to intimidate us, or you can join us for dinner and see what humans are really about. Your call. The room held its breath as Vorkan considered the offer. Finally, he leaned forward, a faint flicker of curiosity in his glowing eyes. Very well, he said, his voice low. We will join your feast. But understand this, if we are not impressed, there will be consequences. Nathan's smile widened. Oh, we're counting on it. As the humans began laying out more plates, the Hryvalk delegation exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that didn't fear them, and the implications were both unsettling and intriguing. The human embassy on the planet Axiora Prime was abuzz with activity. The once sterile diplomatic facility had been transformed into a bustling hub of culinary preparation. The scent of slow-cooked meats and freshly baked bread mingled with the faint tang of spices, wafting out of the kitchen and into the surrounding corridors. Nathan paced near a massive smoker, his brow furrowed as he checked a clipboard filled with notes. Behind him, a team of chefs worked with precision, preparing what Nathan called Earth's finest display of culinary diplomacy. Brisket holding steady at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, called a chef, wiping their hands on an apron. Ribs are almost ready for the final glaze. Perfect, Nathan said, his tone equal parts focus and excitement. Remember, this isn't just food, it's a message. We're not just feeding the Hryvalk. We're showing them what humans are capable of. Nearby, Aaron was carefully stirring a pot of ghost pepper sauce, the fumes so intense that several assistants had donned protective goggles. You sure this isn't overkill? She asked, glancing at Nathan. Overkill? Nathan replied with a grin. This is the Hryvalk we're talking about. If we don't bring our A-game, they'll think we're weak. Besides, if they can't handle it, we'll offer them milk. Simple. Aaron chuckled, setting the sauce aside to cool. I just hope they don't take the heat personally. Meanwhile, in the embassy's main hall, a team of decorators was putting the finishing touches on the dining area. Long wooden tables made from imported earth oak were lined with checkered tablecloths, evoking a classic backyard barbecue vibe. A massive grill dominated the outdoor space, flanked by Earth's hunting trophies, mounted antlers, a legendary marlin, and even Grandma Betty's infamous moose head. "Do you think they'll get the symbolism?" asked Alan, the embassy's logistics officer, gesturing to the trophies. "They'll get it," Nathan said confidently. "Predators respect predators. We're showing them that humans don't just survive, we thrive, even against the odds." On the Hryvalk side. Aboard their flagship, the Hryvalk Council was in the midst of a heated debate. The chamber, lined with the skeletal remains of the species they had hunted to extinction, now felt oddly less imposing. "This is clearly a trap," growled Sub-Commander Zaktor, pacing on all 6 limbs. "No species invites predators to dinner without ulterior motives." Science Officer Nixcal adjusted her bioluminescent scales nervously. "Their actions are unusual, yes. But our analysis of their behavior suggests they genuinely believe this dinner is a form of diplomacy." Vorkan, seated on a throne of compressed battlefield armor, remained silent as he reviewed the humans' official menu on a datapad. His claws tapped the armrest rhythmically. "They've sent us details of their barbecue," he said finally, his tone unreadable. "They appear to take great pride in their culinary practices. Slow cooking, seasoning, flavor enhancement, it's as if they are waging a war on the concept of raw meat." Zaktor scoffed. "Ridiculous. Only weaklings waste time on such things. The hunt is about power and efficiency." "Perhaps," Vorkan replied, his voice low. "But consider this, the humans turned wolves into companions and fire into a tool. They are clearly not to be underestimated. We will attend this dinner, but we will remain vigilant." Back at the embassy. As the final preparations were made, Nathan stood outside, watching as smoke curled lazily from the massive smoker. The anticipation in the air was electric. Aaron joined him, carrying a tray of freshly grilled vegetables. "Think they'll like it?" Nathan grinned. "Oh, they'll like it. And if they don't, they'll at least respect the effort. Either way, we win." The distant hum of engines drew their attention skyward. The Hryvalk flagship descended, its massive silhouette blotting out the twin suns. The landing was deliberate, a show of power, as the ship's engine sent ripples through the ground. The embassy staff watched nervously as the Hryvalk delegation disembarked. Their ceremonial armor gleamed, and they carried display cases containing the skulls of extinct prey species. Nathan stepped forward to greet them, his tone light but firm. "Welcome to the human embassy. We're honored to have you as our guests." Vorkan's glowing eyes scanned the setup, lingering on the grill, the tables, and finally the trophies mounted on the walls. His claws flexed slightly as he spoke. "You honor us with your effort, human. But know this, we do not tolerate weakness." Nathan gestured toward the smoker, releasing a waft of hickory-scented smoke. "Good thing we're not serving weakness, then. We're serving brisket. Care to join us?" For a moment, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, with a slow nod, Vorkan stepped forward. "Let us see what the humans have prepared." As the Hryvalk took their seats, the humans brought out the first course, ghost pepper wings. The stage was set for an unforgettable meal, and everyone in the room knew that this dinner would decide far more than just who had the best cooking skills. The Hryvalk delegation settled into their seats with a deliberate slowness, their imposing frames and ceremonial armor making every movement feel calculated. The tension in the air was palpable, but the humans seemed immune to it, moving with an air of casual confidence as they carried out the final preparations. Smoke from the outdoor grill swirled lazily through the air, carrying with it the tantalizing aroma of hickory and spices. The Hryvalk observed everything with quiet intensity, their glowing eyes tracking every motion, every detail, as if evaluating their hosts for weaknesses. Nathan emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray piled high with chicken wings glazed in a fiery red sauce. He set the tray in the center of the long wooden table, a grin playing at the corners of his mouth. "We call these ghost pepper wings," he announced, his tone cheerful. "A little appetizer to get things started. Don't worry, they're spicy, but we've got milk on hand if it's too much." Vorkan's claws flexed slightly, and his eyes narrowed as he regarded the wings. He reached out and picked one up delicately, his bioluminescent scales flickering faintly. The other Hryvalk followed suit, their expressions a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Nathan watched as Vorkan took a cautious bite, his grin widening as the Hryvalk leader's eyes widened ever so slightly. The spice hit like a shockwave. For a moment, Vorkan's natural bioluminescent display flared brightly, and his subordinate, Zaktor, let out an audible hiss as he reached for his glass. Nathan quickly interjected, sliding a pitcher of milk toward them. "Milk works best. Water just spreads the heat around." His voice was calm, almost soothing, as if he were hosting a casual neighborhood cookout instead of serving dinner to the galaxy's most fearsome predators. The Hryvalk, prideful as they were, hesitated. Vorkan finally relented, taking a sip of the milk. The relief was immediate, and his bioluminescent display dimmed to a steady glow. "Your spices are formidable," he admitted, his voice tinged with grudging respect. Nathan shrugged, still smiling. "We like a challenge. Life's more interesting that way." He gestured toward the grill outside. "Speaking of challenges, wait until you try the main course. Brisket, smoked low and slow for 16 hours. It's a process we perfected back on Earth. Took one of the toughest cuts of meat and turned it into something incredible. You're going to love it." The Hryvalk exchanged glances, their skepticism beginning to give way to intrigue. They weren't used to this, being in a position where they weren't the ones setting the tone. The humans' confidence was disarming, and their hospitality was unlike anything the Hryvalk had encountered before. For a species that thrived on dominance, this unexpected display of strength through adaptability was unsettling. As the humans brought out the main course, the room filled with the rich aroma of smoked meat. Plates were piled high with slices of brisket, their edges glistening with a perfect bark of seasoning. Side dishes followed, grilled vegetables, baked beans, and fresh bread, all prepared with the same meticulous care. Nathan and his team served the food with an ease that belied the significance of the moment. This wasn't just a meal, it was a declaration of humanity's unique approach to survival and diplomacy. Vorkan picked up a slice of brisket, his claws cutting into the tender meat with surprising precision. He took a bite, his glowing eyes widening slightly as the flavor hit. The Hryvalk leader chewed slowly, his expression shifting from suspicion to something bordering on approval. "This is not what I expected," he said finally, his voice quieter than before. Nathan leaned on the table, his smile now more subdued but no less confident. "That's kind of our thing," he said. "Humans are full of surprises." The rest of the meal passed in a strange sort of harmony. The Hryvalk, initially wary, began to relax as the humans continued to engage them with stories of Earth's culinary traditions. Aaron shared tales of family barbecues and competitive eating contests, while Alan explained the intricate science behind creating the perfect smoked meat. The humans' casual demeanor was infectious, and even the Hryvalk's most stoic warriors couldn't help but be drawn in. By the time dessert arrived, a selection of Earth sweets ranging from pies to chocolate-covered fruits, the mood in the room had shifted completely. The Hryvalk, once rigid and guarded, now seemed almost at ease. Vorkan leaned back in his chair, his claws resting on the table as he regarded Nathan with a new level of respect. "You are not like the other species we have encountered," he said, his tone measured. "You do not seek to dominate, yet you do not cower. Your methods are unconventional." Nathan chuckled, pouring himself a glass of sweet tea. We've had to get creative over the centuries. Survival wasn't easy, but we learned a lot along the way. And we figured out that sometimes, the best way to win isn't through force, it's through connection. Vorkan nodded slowly, his bioluminescent eyes flickering thoughtfully. For the first time, he seemed to genuinely consider the humans not as prey or rivals, but as something entirely new. The room fell into a comfortable silence, the kind that only comes after a truly satisfying meal. As the humans cleared the table and prepared for the next phase of the evening, the Hryvalk delegation began to realize that this dinner wasn't just about food. It was a statement, a challenge, and an invitation all at once. And for the first time in their long and fearsome history, the Hryvalk found themselves curious about what humanity might teach them. The Hryvalk delegation sat quietly around the table, their plates now cleared of brisket and ghost pepper wings. The air was thick with the aroma of smoldering wood from the outdoor smoker, but the tension that had initially filled the room had softened into something more reflective. For the first time in their long history as apex predators, the Hryvalk weren't the ones dictating the terms of an encounter. Vorkan broke the silence, his deep voice resonating in the quiet room. Your methods are strange, human. You speak of adaptation as if it is a strength. Yet, to us, it seems a concession. To adapt is to accept limitation. His glowing eyes locked onto Nathan's, seeking a reaction. Nathan leaned back in his chair, his ever-present grin replaced with a thoughtful expression. I get why you'd think that, he began, his tone conversational. From your perspective, dominance is straightforward. You're bigger, stronger, faster, why change what already works, right? He gestured toward the now empty brisket platter. But here's the thing, being the best at something doesn't mean you're untouchable. It just means you haven't met the right challenge yet. Erin chimed in, her voice calm but firm. Take Earth, for example. Our ancestors weren't the strongest. We didn't have claws or fangs. Heck, we weren't even the fastest. What we had was the ability to think ahead. To adapt to whatever the world threw at us. That's how we survived. Vorkan's claws tapped against the table rhythmically, his gaze unwavering. Your point being? Nathan straightened, his grin returning. My point is, being an apex predator is great, until it isn't. What happens when your prey adapts? When the environment changes? That's where humans thrive. We don't just adapt to survive, we adapt to win. Zaktor, one of Vorkan's subordinates, scoffed. Your boasting means nothing without proof. Nathan exchanged a glance with Erin, who nodded. With a tap on her datapad, a hologram flickered to life in the center of the table. It displayed a vast, frozen tundra, where early humans, clad in furs, tracked a massive woolly mammoth. This, Nathan said, gesturing toward the hologram, is one of our historical triumphs. Persistence hunting. That creature weighed over 6 tons, covered in thick fur and armed with tusks that could impale a person in an instant. But we took it down. Not with speed. Not with strength. With strategy. The hologram shifted, showing a group of humans herding the mammoth toward a trap. As the massive beast struggled, the humans moved with relentless determination, their weapons primitive but effective. We didn't need to overpower it, Nathan continued. We just had to outlast it. That's the power of adaptability. We don't fight fair. We fight smart. The Hryvalk delegation watched the hologram in silence, their expressions unreadable. Vorkan's claws stopped tapping, and he leaned forward slightly, his bioluminescent eyes narrowing. You are saying that strategy is superior to strength? Not always, Erin replied. But when strength fails, strategy fills the gap. And when strategy isn't enough, creativity takes over. That's the human way. The hologram shifted again, now displaying images of Earth's predators, lions, tigers, sharks, and bears. Each was accompanied by a brief clip of humans hunting or interacting with them. Nathan narrated with ease. We didn't just survive encounters with these apex predators. We studied them. We learned their strengths and weaknesses. And eventually, we figured out how to coexist, or overcome. Zaktor's eyes narrowed as the hologram displayed a pack of wolves transformed into domesticated dogs. You took predators and made them allies? Nathan chuckled. More like partners. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became transportation. We even turned massive beasts like elephants into workers. Humanity's greatest strength isn't just in adapting, it's in finding new ways to thrive. Vorkan leaned back, his glowing eyes flickering thoughtfully. For the first time, the weight of his species' own evolutionary strategy seemed less certain. You claim that adaptability is your strength. But does that mean you lack limits? Surely, there are things even humans cannot overcome. Nathan nodded, his expression serious. Of course we have limits. Every species does. But the difference is, we don't see them as barriers. We see them as challenges. And every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. Erin leaned forward, her gaze locking onto Vorkan's. That's why we invited you to dinner. To show you that strength doesn't just come from domination. It comes from connection, from learning, from building something greater together. The room fell into a contemplative silence. The Hryvalk delegation, known throughout the galaxy for their unshakable confidence, seemed almost uncertain. This encounter wasn't going the way they had expected. Instead of being overwhelmed by the Hryvalk's presence, the humans had turned the tables, challenging everything the apex predators thought they knew about strength. Vorkan finally broke the silence, his voice quieter but no less commanding. You speak with conviction, human. Perhaps there is merit in your approach. But words are easy. Proving them is another matter. Nathan's grin widened. That's fair. Lucky for you, the night's not over yet. Dessert is coming, and trust me, it'll blow your mind. The Hryvalk exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued despite themselves. For a species that had always relied on strength and fear to maintain their dominance, the humans' methods were both alien and intriguing. As they waited for the next course, one thing was clear, the Hryvalk were beginning to see humans not as prey, but as something entirely different, equals, perhaps even rivals. The air in the dining hall buzzed with a strange mixture of tension and camaraderie. The Hryvalk, galaxy-renowned as apex predators, now sat amidst the humans in a state of introspective silence, their predatory postures slightly relaxed. Plates were cleared, the aromas of smoked brisket and fiery spices lingering in the air as the humans prepared the final phase of the evening, dessert. Nathan stood near the entrance to the kitchen, discussing the logistics with Erin. She held up a tray of steaming, molten chocolate cakes while glancing back at the Hryvalk delegation. Do you think they'll even like this? Sweet food seems like a human thing. Nathan smirked. That's the beauty of this. It's not just about the food anymore, it's about what it represents. If they can embrace something unfamiliar, even for a moment, that's the start of something new. When Nathan re-entered the dining hall, he carried a tray filled with small, ornate dishes, each holding a miniature chocolate cake paired with fresh fruit. He set the tray down with a flourish, his grin widening at the curious glances from the Hryvalk. Alright, folks, we call this lava cake. It's got a gooey chocolate center that erupts when you cut into it. A little metaphorical, if you think about it. Dig in. The Hryvalk exchanged uncertain glances. Zaktor, ever the skeptic, leaned toward Vorkan. What purpose does this serve? They have already demonstrated their culinary prowess. This feels excessive. Vorkan's glowing eyes remained fixed on the dish before him. It is a test, he said, his voice low. Not of strength, but of willingness. The humans seek to know if we are capable of something we have never considered, cooperation. Tentatively, Vorkan picked up a fork and sliced into the cake. The molten chocolate oozed out, and he hesitated only briefly before taking a bite. His bioluminescent eyes flickered faintly, a sign of internal conflict. The flavor was rich, complex, and utterly foreign. For a species that had always valued raw, unadulterated sustenance, this was an entirely new experience. Nathan watched with a knowing smile as the other Hryvalk followed suit, their reactions ranging from cautious to contemplative. "It's not bad, right?" he said, breaking the silence. "Sweetness doesn't just nourish the body, it's meant to remind us of the good things in life. Things worth sharing." Vorkan set his fork down, his expression inscrutable. "You have proven your skill as hosts and your adaptability as a species. But what is it you truly seek, human? Why go to such lengths for a species like ours?" Nathan leaned forward, his gaze steady. "Because we know what it's like to be at odds with everything. To fight for survival, to claw our way to the top. But we also know there's more to existence than just survival. Connection, cooperation, that's what makes us stronger. Together, we could accomplish things neither of us could do alone." Vorkan's bioluminescent eyes narrowed, the glowing patterns on his armor shifting subtly as he considered Nathan's words. For the Hryvalk, domination had always been the ultimate goal, the measure of success. Yet these humans were offering a different path, one that required neither submission nor conquest. Erin chimed in, her voice steady and earnest. "You're not just predators. You're innovators, explorers, leaders. Imagine what we could do if we combined our strengths, your mastery of the hunt and our knack for turning challenges into opportunities." The room grew quiet as the weight of her words settled over the Hryvalk delegation. Even Zaktor, who had been openly skeptical of the humans, seemed to falter in his objections. The concept of mutual benefit was not one they had considered before, but the evidence of humanity's capabilities, and their boldness, was undeniable. Vorkan finally broke the silence, his voice measured. "You propose an alliance, then? A partnership between hunters and survivors. But tell me, human, what assurance do we have that this will not lead to our detriment?" Nathan leaned back, his grin tempered but genuine. "No guarantees. Just trust. And maybe the knowledge that we didn't come to you with weapons or threats. We came with an invitation. That says a lot about what we value." Vorkan studied Nathan for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You are unlike any species we have encountered. Perhaps this alliance is worth exploring. But know this, human, we will not be easily swayed. You will need to prove the strength of your words with action." Nathan extended a hand, his smile broadening. "Deal. And we'll start by showing you how to make barbecue sauce from scratch." Vorkan hesitated, then reached out and clasped Nathan's hand, his claws carefully retracted. The gesture was simple, yet it carried profound significance. Around the table, the other Hryvalk followed suit, their wary expressions giving way to cautious curiosity. The atmosphere in the room shifted, the divide between predator and survivor beginning to blur. For the first time in galactic history, the Hryvalk had agreed to something other than domination. The alliance was tentative, but it was a start, a step toward a future neither species could have imagined alone. As the humans cleared the table and began discussing plans for a joint hunting expedition, one that involved both the Hryvalk's tracking skills and humanity's culinary artistry, the room buzzed with a new kind of energy. The Hryvalk were no longer just apex predators, and the humans were no longer just clever survivors. Together, they were something new entirely. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was nearly unrecognizable. What was once a space for diplomatic arguments and territorial disputes now buzzed with an electric atmosphere of excitement. Delegations from across the galaxy filled the vast hall, their unique forms and voices mingling in anticipation. Holoscreens displayed a bold, glowing banner in every known language, the first intergalactic culinary festival, a celebration of unity. At the center of it all stood Nathan and Vorkan, flanked by their respective teams. The humans and Hryvalk, whose encounter had sparked this unprecedented event, now worked together with a seamless camaraderie that had seemed impossible mere weeks ago. Nathan wore his usual confident grin, while Vorkan's bioluminescent eyes gleamed with newfound purpose. The Hryvalk leader's ceremonial armor was absent, replaced with a custom apron that read, "Grill or be grilled." As the festival's opening ceremony commenced, Nathan stepped forward to address the crowd. "Welcome, everyone. Today isn't just about food, it's about what food represents. Sharing a meal is one of the oldest ways to build trust, to form connections. And trust me, there's no better way to do that than with barbecue." A ripple of laughter spread through the audience, an odd but welcome sound in a chamber once dominated by tension and intimidation. Nathan gestured toward the massive grill at the center of the hall, where a diverse array of dishes sizzled and smoked. "What you see here isn't just food, it's history. Each dish tells a story, not just about humans or Hryvalk, but about every species that decided to join us today." Vorkan stepped forward, his towering presence commanding immediate attention. His voice, once used to instill fear, now carried a sense of authority tempered by respect. "The Hryvalk have always valued strength and dominance. But through this collaboration, we have learned that strength is not diminished by sharing it. Today, we stand not as predators or prey, but as equals, united by something greater than conquest." The crowd erupted in applause, an unexpected harmony of clicking mandibles, flapping wings, and other alien gestures of approval. Delegates leaned forward in anticipation as the humans and Hryvalk unveiled the first dishes of the festival. The highlight of the event was the joint human-Hryvalk creation, Inferno ribs. The dish combined the Hryvalk's mastery of intense spices with humanity's slow-cooking techniques, resulting in ribs so tender they fell off the bone, yet packed a fiery kick that tested even the most resilient palates. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy lined up to try them, their reactions ranging from stunned silence to enthusiastic approval. But the festival wasn't just about food. It was about innovation and collaboration. Each species brought their own culinary traditions to the table, blending them with others in ways no one had anticipated. A gelatinous species known for consuming raw minerals introduced their crystalline garnishes to Earth's desserts, creating shimmering, edible masterpieces. Meanwhile, a feathered avian species contributed their rapid roasting techniques to perfecting Earth's poultry dishes. As the day unfolded, the festival turned into a whirlwind of shared experiences. Competitive eating contests, spearheaded by humans and reluctantly joined by the Hryvalk, became the unexpected highlight. Vorkan himself shocked the galaxy by taking second place in a hot wing challenge, narrowly losing to Aaron, who cheerfully declared her victory a team effort. Holojournalists from across the galaxy documented every moment, broadcasting the event to millions of systems. The sight of humans and Hryvalk laughing together over plates of food, engaging in friendly competition, and exchanging recipes sent shockwaves through galactic society. The long-feared apex predators were no longer the embodiment of terror, they were participants in a cultural renaissance. The festival's impact extended beyond the event itself. Inspired by the alliance between humans and Hryvalk, other species began exploring their own forms of collaboration. Predators who had once ruled through fear started reconsidering their methods, intrigued by the possibility of building connections instead of walls. The Galactic Culinary Network, a coalition of species dedicated to food innovation and cultural exchange, was officially formed, with humans and Hryvalk at its helm. As the sun dipped below Axiora Prime's twin horizons, casting the council chamber in a warm, golden glow, Nathan and Vorkan stood side by side, watching the festival unfold. Around them, beings of every shape and size mingled, laughing, eating, and sharing stories. Vorkan turned to Nathan, his voice quiet but filled with a newfound respect. You humans are a peculiar species. You have turned survival into an art form and conflict into an opportunity. Nathan chuckled, clinking his glass of sweet tea against Vorkan's alien drink. That's what we do. We adapt, we connect, and we find a way to make it work. And sometimes, we turn it into a party. Vorkan's bioluminescent eyes flickered in what could only be described as amusement. Perhaps we were never truly the apex predators of the galaxy. Perhaps strength lies not in dominance, but in unity. Nathan grinned. You're getting it now. Welcome to the team. As the festival continued into the night, one thing became clear: this was more than just a celebration of food. It was the beginning of a new era, one where collaboration, creativity, and adaptability reigned supreme. The galaxy, once divided by fear and competition, was now united by the simple yet profound act of sharing a meal. And for the first time in recorded history, the universe felt just a little bit smaller, a little bit closer, and a whole lot more delicious.